Today on Ballistic BBQ, I'm going to be cooking up a rack of beef ribs and what I can only assume is a total piece of crap $60 smoker. Let's get going. A while back I was trying to come up with some video ideas and I thought, you know what, it might be kind of fun to do a cook on a cheap barbecue. And by cheap I don't mean inexpensive, I mean like flimsy, just crappy design and everything. And I found one. I found it on a internet site, a website called Temu.com, and I ordered it. It was $60 plus shipping. It was like 66 bucks. This was back in October of 2023. A long story, but it was taking months to arrive basically. They finally refunded my money and ended up sending it anyway, plus crediting me $5, gave me a $5 credit. Then some drama came up. People started making videos or posts on Twitter and such about how terrible of a company Temu is, you know, as far as labor practices and everything. The dilemma was, what do I do? Do I make a video or not? Then I decided, you know what, I'm not promoting this company. They're not sponsoring me. I mean, I paid for, well, I ended up getting it for free, but I started out paying for it. Let's just do a video. Let's see how well this thing works. And that's what we're going to do. For the record, I am very much pro, let's make it in America, and hopefully one of these days we'll be able to get away from the dependency on outsourcing. But for now I'm going with plan A, which is I'm going to review this smoker. So as you can see, it's a vertical, kind of a bullet type of smoker, and from the ground to the top of the lid, it is right around, call it 29.5 inches. We have a damper on the lid and a thermometer on the lid. Right off the bat, the first thing I notice is how extremely light this thing is. And it's light because it is made from very, very thin metal. It is in 2 layers with 2 cooking grates. The cooking grates looks like it's a plated steel and made from the same wire that you would make a coat hanger from. Maybe even a little thinner than that. I'm probably giving a little bit of too much credit. Very thin grates. It's in 2 sections. So this section comes off. Then you can see we have another grate right here. Then a water bowl. So inside here we have the charcoal bowl and another grate. This is a charcoal grate made from the same cheap material as the cooking grates. So I have a feeling, if not from this cook that I'm going to do, from a second cook, this will probably be all bowed from the heat. Something else I want to show you. So this is looking straight down through the cooking chamber. Here's the fire bowl, and you can see there's just a gap going 360 degrees around the perimeter of this bowl. So I mean, from the ground here. It has doors, top and bottom here, for accessing, you know, adding more charcoal or adding more water, but these are also to be utilized as dampers to, you know, get more air or restrict air. But again, there's nothing restricting the bottom. I mean, this is a crazy amount of air that's going to be able to get in here. So I'll be shocked if I get a good low and slow cook out of this thing. Initially I wanted to cook beef short ribs. However, my butcher, for whatever reason, didn't have short ribs in stock, so I bought the beef back ribs. Now, on the note of my planned cook, one of the other things I was considering cooking was a pork shoulder, but the depth of this thing from the grate up to the top of the lid is like 5 inches, and I don't think this thing's big enough, you know, to cook a pork shoulder. There would be more room if I used that lower grate, but I think it's way too close to the heat source. Again, without the damper controls that you would have from, like, say, a WSM, I'm very skeptical about how this thing works. Now, the other thing about this cooker is how crudely it's put together. When this arrived, this part of the lid here, the rim, was completely folded in, and I was able to bend it out with pliers and then, you know, placing this on the workbench and using a block of wood and a hammer, tap it out to where it seals almost, it doesn't seal, it's not going to seal anyway. But anyway, it's about as straight as the rim here. But what happened is, to me, this edge here is not finished at all. The rim here is rolled over. This is literally just cut, and then they painted it. And I sliced my finger open. I'm going to give you a demo, not with my finger. So I got a stand in here for my finger. This is a Nathan's hot dog. And let's see here. So it slices, it dices, and it cooks ribs. That's not a good thing, I mean, right? The thing is these doors, it has the same sharp edges. So it's kind of use at your own risk kind of a thing. If anybody's watching this video because they're on a budget and maybe they want to dip their toes into the world of outdoor cooking, of barbecuing, smoking, grilling, buy a used kettle grill. You know, there's a kettle grill proudly made in America using internationally sourced parts will do everything you need to do. You can use indirect heat, you know, put the charcoal on one side. You can go low and slow. You can cook briskets, ribs, pork shoulders, or you can directly cook steaks. I mean, they're the Swiss Army knife of outdoor cooking. And once you start mastering, you know, your heat control and everything, then you can start stepping up to the more expensive cookers. But so many people buy a cheap thing like this because they don't want to spend a lot of money, but they want to start doing, you know, barbecue. And all you're going to do is discourage yourself. It'll be interesting to see how accurate this thermometer is, and if I can even damper the heat at all. Well, let's start cooking. So for this cook, I'm using briquettes, and I'm doing like a snake burn. We'll see how that works. I don't have any wood chunks, so I'm just going to throw in wood chips. I'm definitely going to use the water bowl for this cook. So I hit the inside of this cooker with a degreaser and water, dried it off. And as far as the grates, I just threw those in the dishwasher. I didn't want to do a burn-in because I wanted to do this video with everything clean. And honestly, I don't think I'll be using this cooker again after this. We'll see though. So I'm going to allow this to preheat just a little bit before I throw the ribs on. I don't know if I mentioned it, the grates on this are 14 inches. I probably did, but I don't know if I did. But anyway, it's 14-inch grates. Another thing I'm a little concerned about now that I'm looking at it and touching it, all the handles on this are just plastic, and it's plastic making contact with the metal. So this could get interesting. So it's been about 10 minutes or so since I closed the lid on the lit pit here. Let's see, I got a ThermoWorks probe in the damper, and we're at 221. It's still climbing slowly though. There is smoke coming out, not a whole lot, through the seams here, the lid seam and the midsection of the cooking chamber. I'm going to put the ribs on right now. I have a feeling that as that snake starts to burn, the charcoal starts to burn around, I'm going to be doing a lot of fiddling with this lid damper, which is literally the only control I have here. I think that water is going to play an important role in this cook. So, question is, will the lid go on? So, of course, 14 inches, the rack of beef ribs was much larger than that. I thought the best way would be to do it in a rib rack, and because of how low the lid is, instead of having the ribs this way, I had to lay them horizontally. Let's see what happens here. All right, so far so good. So I want to get this just in here. This is just give me an idea, and I don't want to touch the food with it. And I've been double checking the accuracy of that smoke with an instant read. And like I showed you right before I took the lid off to put the ribs on, we were creeping up towards 225. So we'll see what happens here. This could be interesting, could be very not interesting. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a very quick update, because it's only been 30 minutes since you last saw me, since I put the lid on the ribs. It took a pretty darn long time, a surprisingly long time, for the temperature with that, with the meat in the pit now, to come up to like a barbecue temperature. Right now we're running at 227 degrees, and that's on my ThermoWorks, looking at the ThermoWorks. Looking at their lid thermometer, we're running at 125 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's something to be concerned about if you were to buy this. And yeah, that's the Fahrenheit reading. This thermometer is basically, the only purpose it's serving is plugging a hole in the lid. Other than that, we'll see what happens once that water starts, heating up and the meat temperature kind of balances with the pit temperature. We'll see if we get what I was kind of concerned about. So far so good right now though. Oh, I know what I wanted to tell you. And I forgot about this because this really isn't like a tutorial on cooking ribs video, but I know some people are going to want to know. I'm using Lane's. They're out of Bethlehem, Georgia. Their rub, their SPF rub, which is really good on beef. And I did peel the membrane off the back of the ribs. And what my plan is, after they're pretty much done, I want to finish them with a sauce. And if you watch my burger channel, I did a Theta burger, which included this homemade hickory sauce, which was similar to a barbecue sauce, but very savory flavor, and it just goes really, really good with beef. So I want to see how it will work out as like kind of a finishing sauce on these ribs, because beef, and I like a kind of a savory barbecue sauce on beef. So anyway, I'll see you in a bit. I'll keep you guys posted on this cook. So we're at 2.5 hours now. I'm going to pull these ribs and we're going to baste them with that hickory sauce I was telling you about. Cook's been totally different than I was expecting. I was expecting super high, out of control heats, and honestly, it's been the opposite of that. It's running at 225 with the dampers fully open. I would open up that bottom damper and the temperature, where the charcoal is, and the temperature would actually drop because the heat was coming out through that door and not going up through the pit, out the lid. So it's been kind of frustrating in that respect. I think if I were to do this again, and let me know if you want to see at least one more cook on this thing, I would build the charcoal down below more like I would on a Kamado, like a pile with the light starting in the dead center rather than doing that snake. I think it would work better because I'm struggling for those higher heats. Right now I fed it some lump and I kind of knocked the lump into the center once it got lit, and we're at around 230 now, so that's definitely helped. But other than that, it's been interesting. The thermometer is still, it's like 110 degrees, even though it's like 230. Anyway, let's check out these ribs. See, pretty, it's got a nice color. So here's that hickory sauce I was telling you about. And while I'm basting these ribs, I'm going to show you that recipe. I'll have it down below as well. So I've got a large pot here. We'll start with the wet ingredients. First, we're going to add 2 cups of just water, 1.5 cups of tomato puree, 1/2 cup vegetable oil, 2 tablespoons soy sauce, 2.5 tablespoons Worcestershire sauce, 1 tablespoon white vinegar, 2 teaspoons liquid smoke. Now I'm going to add 1/2 cup of extremely finely minced onion, 2.5 tablespoons tomato paste, 1 teaspoon garlic paste, 1 tablespoon sugar, 1 teaspoon cayenne pepper, 1 teaspoon celery seed, 1 teaspoon salt. So what I'm going to do is bring this up to a nice boil, continuously whisking. Then I'm going to reduce the heat to a simmer, whisking occasionally. And I'm going to simmer this for about 3 hours or so. And what I'm trying to do is reduce this. I mean, reduce it a lot. As it starts getting closer to this consistency here, it's like It's a very, very thick sauce. I'm going to crank the heat, and then I'm just going to keep whisking it and just kind of watch the color develop until it becomes that nice kind of rich red that we have in the jar here. And here they are. Sauce is very, very thick. For an application like this, you could, and I probably should have, watered it down, just diluted it so it flows a little bit better. And this time I'm going without the rack. So these ribs they're pretty much almost done. I mean, they're, back ribs. There's not a whole lot of meat on there, and the meat's definitely fully cooked and it's pretty tender. What I'm going to do now is just set that sauce, and then we'll pull them, give you the taste test. Okay, we are at 3 hours now, and I'm calling these ribs done. Check it out. I'm going to go ahead and pull these from the pit. I'm going to let them rest a bit, then we'll cut them up and see how we did. So here we are, all rusted. They look fine, they look good. Got a nice pullback on there. I got really lucky because the cooker didn't behave exactly how I thought it was going to behave. I thought it was going to be, again, this like a flamethrower, cooking these things crazy fast with no control. It was more of the opposite, at least the way I had that charcoal set up. It was hard to really, or difficult, to get it up to the heat that I wanted, tender, and then maintain that temperature. Got a nice smoke ring there, getting good color. I'm more excited about this sauce because, like I said, this is actually a hamburger sauce. But when I made it for this copycat hamburger that I did, the first thing I wanted to think in my head, I was thinking, boy, this would go good on like beef ribs. Yeah, it's a good cook. I mean, see, it's nice and juicy. Good smoke flavor. From a cook standpoint, I think what I would do different next time is just go with salt and pepper. That rub and the sauce, they're competing kind of a little too much. So anyway, I'm happy with the way the ribs turned out. Would I recommend anybody to buy this? No, the answer is no. I just wouldn't. Stand behind if you're on a budget. Go with a kettle like a Weber kettle or an S&S kettle. Very versatile cookers, very affordable. And if you're just getting into barbecue, it's a great way to kind of learn the concept of controlling the heat and breaking down that tough meat into a nice tender bite. This here, especially on a really long cook, would just lead to frustration, which may make someone decide, I don't want to do this. And it's just, again, it's a piece of crap. I don't know what else to say. But anyway, it was interesting for me to do this. I had fun. It was a fun video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm reluctantly going to say, if you want to see me try to do a longer cook on this, let me know below. Obviously a brisket's not going to fit in there. I mean, a flat wood, I would want to do something more like, again, a rack of beef short ribs, or maybe do a tri-tip brisket style, like a long low so on a tri-tip. But then I'm giving this away, or maybe throwing it away. I don't know. I don't know what else I can do with it. It's taking up room right now. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing, ringing that notification bell, thumbing up the video if you liked it. I hope you did. Keep those suggestions coming in, and I will see you on the next video. Cheers.